This is Gene Krebs.
Hi there. Oh. Whoop. Whoosh.
And we're high on Ohio.
The people who are not going to be attracted to the advantages of a place like Cleveland, we're not interested in spreading the word to them, really. You know, there's millions of people, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people in the world. Not everyone needs to be reached with a marketing campaign or a branding campaign. This is where we confuse ourselves in thinking that everyone has to understand our message and everyone has to line up outside our door. Are the words really getting out? I mean, the internet now allows people to find stuff that they could never find before. So you don't have to work real hard to find the cool stuff going on around here. I think
Go to your website. What is this Cool Cleveland?
CoolCleveland.com, and we have an app. But it's not hard to figure out what drives a community to be interesting, to be active, to be engaged. Those are things like arts and culture, for example. And this community has it really, not just to compare it to this state, but to compare it to the country and the world. Because this is an older community that's been here for hundreds of years. Very well established music, theater, arts, dance, avant-garde, photography, visual arts, museums, in abundance. Things like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a museum no one else has. So it leads with arts and culture, but you've got the whole range of things. We have a really strong nonprofit community that supports not only arts and culture, but social services. You know, makes it a really pleasant place to live here compared to other places that just don't have the infrastructure that we have. A lot of people leave a place like Columbus or Cincinnati or Tiffin or Findlay or Toledo, and they go to these big cities on the coasts like New York or San Francisco or Los Angeles or maybe even Chicago, which is probably the closest to a Midwestern capital. Because they think they're going to find opportunity there, because they think they're going to find cool, interesting things to do there, they're going to find a community of people to be a part of. And the fact is that those people are actually moving back into this community faster than they're leaving. Artists especially are starting to see how well we support the arts here. We passed a cigarette tax a few years ago that makes Cuyahoga County...
The so-called sin tax.
One of the sin taxes. It's a cigarette tax, because there's another one for sports and stadiums that is nowhere near as effective in terms of economic development. But this one has really driven economic development, and it's attracted artists. They set up a program, for example, in Waterloo with North Collinwood, right on the lake, which is a burgeoning arts and music district, where they were funding artists to come in and live and work, and they thought it would draw kids from the suburbs of Cleveland, and what happened was they got wind of it in New York and around the country. And all of a sudden they've got artists coming in going, you're kidding me, I can buy that house for how much? I can live here for how much? And now I don't have to spend 80 hours a week just paying my rent in Brooklyn. I can work 20 hours a week and earn enough to pay my rent and spend the other 60 hours actually doing my art, actually living my life. And that's, for young people who really want to do that kind of thing, that's a tremendous burden off their shoulder. The coolness just moves around, okay? And when you have more and more artists coming in like we have over the past couple decades, I mean, I've been on the scene here now for a long time. And as I said, when we started our performance art festival just down the street at what's now the Gordon Square Arts District, it wasn't an arts district at the time. It was a bunch of drug dealers and prostitutes, and it was a pretty nasty neighborhood. Well, that's all been cleaned up now. And I'm sure the prostitutes have gone somewhere else too, but people move on. You walk down the street on the weekends, and I think we need to stay tough. We need to stay gritty. We need to keep our character as the money comes in and these neighborhoods get gentrified and restaurants pop up and nightclubs. We need to retain the character. And most of these neighborhoods are ethnic. They go back hundreds of years. We have now a continuum, a support infrastructure for entrepreneurialism. We have organizations like Jumpstart that have been funding different organizations along the way. Now, we've had other groups. We have Wisdom. We have the Civic Innovation Lab that I worked in for years that gave small grants to get businesses and entrepreneurs up and running. And you know, our theory there was Let's fund the jockey and not the horse. So these amenities that we talk about that we think aren't serious are really the first thing that young people are looking for. You know, when they say, I'm going to move to Austin, they don't say, I have a job. They say, I'm going to move to a place and I'll figure out my job later. They're going there for these amenities. It's hard to get herd all the cats in the room. You know, everybody has their own self-interest and they all go their own direction. But when it comes to the government, I think we need to expect our government to invest in education.
Okay.
We need to have them invest in early education, and also in infrastructure. Because without that, the businesses just don't have a chance. If we're not going to educate our people, then we're not going to have an educated workforce to continue to drive that economy. Okay? And we're going to lose population, and we're not going to find the people that we need here, and we're going to have to import them from elsewhere if we're going to grow. And I think if there's one thing that the state government can do, it's education. It's in their mandate. Now, they've refused to address the fact that our current system of funding education is unconstitutional, and I think we have to continually remind our elected officials that they need to change that. Others need to share in the solution as well. I think we can do our part by spreading the word. It's really all the media can do is pass the word around, to spread the word on what the needs are, and to spread the word on what the solutions are and what the successes are. And we spend a lot of time focusing on success stories, just like you're doing here, Gene, and interviewing someone like myself. You talk about the Center for Community Solutions. You know, it is about highlighting and modeling solutions as opposed to woe is us, and here's the problem, and we're just wallowing in our own failures. There are a lot of solutions. There are a lot of bright ideas. We need to continue to make traction with them, and that's where I think our role is finding those solutions and showing them to the wider public as best practices.
For more about the Center for Community Solutions or their publications, please visit www.communitysolutions.com.